Your point, though, Rob, and I was starting to talk about this, the tragedies. And then you move on and you got Roy Halladay.
Oh, yeah.
No tragedy of those and any I've missed has resonated with me or struck me. This is the worst experience that I've ever had in my lifetime
in your life.
Around sports.
Mm-hmm.
Magic's, for me, would have been a second. But as I said, Magic's became a redemption story, and he's been inspiring and all that.
He's
and
incredible.
The suddenness and the finality of this. Like, even now, whenever it hits me, like, Kobe's gone.
Right.
Like, he's not coming back. He's not sick, and we'll see him here and there. It really hits me still in the stomach like a gut punch, which is what it did when I first heard of it.
Where were you?
Believe it or not, ironically enough, I was in the air.
So you were in the air, so you had no idea until you landed, or once the plane hit the ground?
So I was flying. As you know, I spoke this weekend in South Dakota.
How did that
went
was
well,
fun? Okay.
went well.
So you did that. So you
And
get on the plane.
I'm flying to Chicago, and then from Chicago here to Miami on Sunday. And for some reason in Chicago, we started getting phone calls and text messages maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes before we landed. Like, it seemed quick, early.
But the phone started to pick up, right.
And people were calling me repeatedly, like the same person.
So you were like, what's going on?
I'm
Right.
like,
something.
But of course you don't think anything. And I didn't even think that it was something tragic.
Right, but they kept calling you. So
Right.
you were like, okay.
And then a friend of mine, not involved with the NBA, texts me OMG. And I shoot back a question mark like, what?
What are you talking about? Right.
What's going on?
Because he doesn't know that you're in the air. So
Right.
He has no idea.
And then he says, text Kobe died. And I'm thinking, there's no way it's Kobe Bryant.
Right. So you like,
And I can't think of another Kobe's, but I text Kobe Bryant question mark. And then he's like, yeah, helicopter crash, TMZ's report. And
did you doubt TMZ when you first heard it or not?
No, because they've been right about, most of the stuff that they report.
A lot of my
that.
friends sent it to me, and they're like, "This is fake news." Like this is what they wanted to hear. Like this is
there
fake news.
There was fake news out there, but it wasn't. From
it wasn't
TMZ.
about right, not from TMZ.
And I felt like crying. I didn't. I didn't try not to. I just didn't. But I felt like I could have, like, tears welling up, and I could easily just start crying.
Right.
And Kobe and I, it was not like we were bosom buddies. We had a good, solid relationship. We would email sometimes. And whenever I saw him, it was it was all
pleasant.
love, yeah.
Right.
But just the iconic nature of what he had done on the basketball court, it just hit me, and as it hit everybody, everybody pretty much. And this is, Rob, I've talked about it. My wife and my daughters are not sports fans, believe it or not.
I believe that. That happens a lot. Right.
Yeah, they're not. But even my wife yesterday was glued to the television watching stuff about Kobe. She was into, because he was one of those guys that had transcended sports. And so, and we're seeing that obviously all over the place with the people mourning.
Yeah. For me, Chris, I was at a day party in Miami Beach. In Fort Lauderdale, I should say. Fort Lauderdale with some friends. Matter of fact, a friend of yours, too, who's covered the NBA for a long time, Shandell Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
So I was hanging. He was like, I got to see Chris or whatever.
Right.
And so we were hanging out with some of his friends and just having drinks and enjoying everything. And then my phone started going off. And the first was from my sister. My oldest sister, Marianne, sent me the TMZ thing that said what happened. And so I looked at it, and so I showed the other people, and they were like, "You think that's real?" And I said, "The last two big deaths, Michael Jackson and Prince, TMZ reported it first." So I said, I just don't know how you report that without knowing for sure.
Right.
You can't report that and be wrong. Otherwise, you're out of business.
Over.
It's over.
Right.
So I thought it was true from the beginning. But I was taken aback by it. It just was like the whole idea of, you're right, a guy that young, 41, legendary status, the stuff that he had done, in his career,
Right.
how he had transitioned into his second career. And I just, it really hit me like, same thing, no tears or anything.
Right.
I didn't, I'm not a crier for the most part. I'm really not. But there was a sadness, just that a young person was taken, in the prime of his life, his young daughter, and then these other people who at first we thought there was 5, and then it wound up being 9, whatever. It's just a tragic thing.
And his daughter, like
yeah.
you said.
A 13-year-old, she barely got to live.
Right.
And you just hate to see that story and circumstance. So it was a rough day for everybody, just dealing with it. I always say it, I covered the league since 1987. I could tell you, my one story was, Chris, when I was working for Sports Channel in New York in the old days. And I was debating this guy. We were going over the draft, and it was about Kobe Bryant. And this guy.
What year was it?
This was what was
when he
drafted
was in the draft, 96.
96. Yeah. This is in the 96. Okay. This is how long I go back to this. And this guy is ranting and raving and going on about how great this guy is going to be. And I'm like, dude, relax. There's no way this kid who's 17 is what you.
Right.
He was so convinced.
Was he from Philadelphia?
I think he had a background like in high school basketball in that area. Okay. So, but he was ranting and raving, and I can never forget how confident he was that this guy was the next it. That he was had that makeup. He talked about all the stuff. And Chris, from that day back in 1996 to his career and the whole 20 years in the NBA, that dude was so spot on. It's scary. He was so right about Kobe.
And Jerry West was another one
who was right, but he said he was the best guy on the team when they decided to.
Right. Yeah, it's just a tragic day, and like you said, you remember where you're at. You will always remember where you're at, and Kobe Bryant, terrific player, and I think, Rob, one of the things that made it. There are many reasons that it was devastating. But one of the things that made it so devastating for me was that this is a guy, and we talked a little bit about it Friday, who had transitioned from basketball to life after basketball as smoothly and seamlessly and successfully as anyone I've ever seen. And during his career, I had doubts that he would be able to make that transition.
Because he was so into basketball.
Yeah, I was like, I knew he was intelligent enough. Right. He's very smart. But what in the world is he going to find to fill that void that basketball has filled for him so much?
We've seen so many athletes that we know who struggle with life after basketball.
Right.
And we're not even talking about on Kobe's level, who are just basketball players. And what do we always say? You go from prime time, everybody wants you, and then when you're out the league, you can't even get a dinner reservation.
No question. I mean, let's keep it real. In a lot of places, people like you and me are more famous or recognized than former professional athletes.
Absolutely.
Who, during their prime would have been, people would have been all over them. And especially like a sport like football or something.
Right, when you don't, right.
Even basketball.
No, I agree. I mean, and that's what happens. You see it. We both see it. Because we talk to people, and people struggle after they stop playing.
Which is understandable because you're so young.
Right.
You're 35, 40 maybe when you're done playing. And but he had made such a smooth transition.
He found a spot.
Best-selling author, Oscar winner for his short film, venture capitalist, media mogul with his media production company. I mean, he was going to – first of all, he already did great things. He did more in those 3.5 years than many athletes or people do in their entire life after retirement from sports. And I think he was going to continue to do tremendous things. It would have been interesting to see. But, yeah, that is one of the things that made it resonate and made it even more devastating to me. All right, Rob, I want to ask you, what is your feeling on what Kobe's legacy is? What do you believe his legacy is?
To me, what he left behind, and obviously with all the other accolades, obviously 5 championships and all that, but I don't think that's what it is. For me, it's his desire to win and work hard, Chris. He was the ultimate competitor. He had that one slip-up, and, we talk about it, the one slip-up against the Suns in Game 7 where he didn't want to shoot. He was mad because people criticized him.
Pout game.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Right.
And I bet you, and I've always said this prior to his death, that if he could do it all over again, he would take that back. Because that was so not Kobe.
Right.
And what he was about. And that's why I think that's what it is. It's that drive, Chris, that whole energy, passion, outwork the next guy. You saw it. You saw him walk like Michael Jordan, talk like Michael Jordan,
play like
Michael, the tongue, the wristband on his elbow.
Right.
Am I right? I mean, there were times when I would hear sound of Kobe and say, that was Michael. like that. So I thought that's the legacy he leaves behind that other people can still look at and say about the competitor in him. And we've lost some of that in this era of basketball.
Right.
Everybody's
Kobe
friendly.
would not have gone along with this.
With what we see now.
Right. No
Everybody's friendly. Everybody wants to be buds. All this other stuff. Kobe was trying to beat you.
Right.
Mike tried to beat you.
He didn't have friends in the league, and especially later in his career.
But you know what I'm saying?
But a lot of it, too, was mentoring guys. He mentors Kyrie. Now, obviously, they're close friends.
Right.
But
it
it's
wasn't
a mentorship
like It
thing
wasn't
as well.
like what you have going on now,
right,
where everybody's buddy. So what about you? Where's your legacy?
Look, obviously he's one of the top 10-ish players of all time. There's no question about that. And one thing I don't want to overlook when we talk about the basketball is the 5 championships.
Right.
We say that like it's easy to get. Because Jordan had 6 and 5 isn't 6, and we write that off like, he got 5. But no, who knows when the next time we'll see an NBA player be the best or second best player on a team that wins 5 championships. LeBron is one of the greatest we've ever seen. Some people think the greatest. He's got 3 in 16 years. Even when he had the stacked team in Miami. He got 2 in 4 years.
Right.
It's hard to win. Kevin Durant has 2. Steph Curry has 3.
It ain't that easy.
When is the next time someone will win that many rings? So I don't want to gloss over that like that's just, a small part of the story. But I think beyond his greatness on the court, the killer instinct, you got to throw that out. Rob, we talked about it a bit Friday. When you talk to current and former players, and the GOAT conversation comes up, and typically the GOAT conversation is LeBron and Michael. Almost to a man, Rob, with both of us, and I'm sure they do it with other media people they talk to. It's always, you got to get Kobe in the conversation.
Right. Yep.
Kobe's a part of the discussion. Why don't you have Kobe in that? I mean, that is and a lot of ex-players have Kobe ahead of LeBron, and the reason is the killer instinct.
Right.
And that came when I look at, the 2000 finals, which you may have covered. I covered it for the New York Times. And Game 4, Lakers playing Indiana. Kobe's in his 4th season, only averaged 22 points that year. So it was a clear Shaq's the number 1, Kobe's a clear number 2. And Kobe got and injured his ankle in Game 2. Only played 8 minutes, scored 2 points. Sits out Game 3 completely. Game 4, Shaq fouls. It's a nip and tuck game, a one-possession game. Shaq fouls out with about 3 minutes left, and Kobe at 21 years old takes over. Hits 3 buckets, and they win the game. They go up 3-1. The series is essentially over. That, to me, solidified Kobe in the public's eye as the clutch scorer, as the guy who wanted the ball at the end of the game. No matter how many potential game winners he may have missed going forward, that was the first impression. I know you can go back to Utah, him missing the shots, the air balls.
But that still told me something.
Right.
That wasn't a negative to me.
It.
I was watching, and I was like, this dude,
Right.
Shaq's
he
on the
got
team.
Some
How does the ball not go to Shaq?
some guts.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I felt the same way when I saw Jordan take the shot at North Carolina. Now, he hit it.
Right.
But I was just like a freshman. You got James Worthy,
Worthy,
Perkins
right,
on the team,
right.
and you taking a shot? He averaged, I think, 13 points that year. So you're right. That told us something. Those first impressions showed us they lasted throughout his career and will last throughout, basketball immortality. But I'm with you, Rob, though. I actually believe as time goes on, Kobe's legacy, as great as it was on the court, will go beyond the court. And it may become more about his mental toughness rather than just the physical gifts he displayed on the basketball court. And I say that because, as I mentioned, his transition off the court. Kobe did nothing halfway. Kobe didn't do anything just to get through it. Didn't do anything because I'm a superstar and if I do it, I'll make money. Didn't do anything just to, be mediocre. When he did basketball, it was all basketball.
All the way.
And he was 100% focused on it. When he left, he was like, I'm done. And I don't want to get in your debate conversations about who's the GOAT. I'm fine with LeBron passing me in points. I don't need to be on the shows commentating about today's players. Every once in a while he'll do it. He did his details and stuff. But he had moved on to business. Now I'm a businessman. Now I'm a venture capitalist. Now I'm a media mogul. And now I'm a family man. I'm a dad. And he went full bore into those things. And that's something I think I'll try to apply to my life is that whatever you do it full bore. Do it full bore.
Right.
Don't be mediocre. To me, that is Kobe Bryant's legacy.